Hey guys, Emmy from Kiindred here. Today I've got Joe, who is our healthy home expert, and we're going to be taking a tour around my home. Not only have I had a real life experience when it comes to dampness and mould, but I've been able to see the issues it's caused with my little ones. So today, together with our friends at DeLonghi, we're going to be sharing with you ways that you can look out for these potential issues in your home to ensure you can all live happily and healthily. So obviously the kitchen is somewhere where I spend a lot of time. When the kids are always playing in the lounge room, I'm generally in here, tidying up or cooking or making snacks. So I know you're going to tell us a little bit about what we can look out for when it comes to moisture and dampness around the home.
Yeah, absolutely. First thing I always look at when I come into a place is under the sink here. And you grab yourself a torch and have a good look, because sometimes you can't see.
Lucky it's neat and tidy.
Don't be shocked. Actually, this is surprisingly good compared to a lot of places I look at. But it's not a place people often have a look. But get your nose in there, have a good sniff.
Okay.
See if you can smell any musty, mouldy smell. And sometimes it's just stagnant air under there is going to have a bit of a smell anyway, because you're not really under here very often. But see it on the back wall there, there's a few marks. It's a little bit, it can be a little bit of just grime build up, but it's potentially mould.
Wow.
Because anywhere where you've got dust or grease or something like that, that is perfect for mould. As soon as the moisture's there, the mould will grow.
Isn't that interesting? Because I would never get down there with the torch like that, and I think
No.
we are always busy and doing things quite quickly, but yeah, you can really see that.
That's
now.
exactly right. And look, most people don't get down and have a look around anywhere with a torch. Now, see that braided hose?
Yep.
So braided hoses are quite common that they can just break. You could be away on holiday or something, and
fun.
So you can have. So it's sort of something that we generally say next time you get a plumber in, ask if they could change that, because that can be a problem, even though that looks like it's in fine condition.
Well, actually, funny you say that it's fairly new, because it was replaced, because it did leak behind there at some point. So if that had a previous leak, I guess I'm just trying to understand why that mould is at the back. Do you think it could have been from a prior leak and it's just built up over time, or can actually the products that you have under there contribute?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's the products that you've got under here. I mean, look, if you've got damp cloths and things under there and clutter, the dampness is going to add moisture to it, but it's generally like a little leak or something like that, or you've just got build up of grime or dust. So if you've got, if you're cooking meats and things, and then that's getting into the air and it's settling on surfaces, and of course you're always cleaning your benches and your walls, and around here, but you're not going to go
do
in
a deep
there.
clean. Yeah, I know you mentioned before about when you're cooking and everything going out into the lounge room. That is so true, because I know that whenever we're cooking anything down there, I can smell it upstairs.
Yes.
It really does build quite quickly. I do have an extractor fan, but I have no idea if it's any good or not.
I know, and see the problem here is it doesn't come out. It's so if you're cooking here, all that moisture is just going straight up into the air here. And then you've got your kettle, which obviously every time you're cooking there's boiling water.
I think the neighbours must be curious about what's floating up on that window.
Well, a lot of people sort of have it under here, like I do in my house.
Yeah.
And then you look at this and it all starts getting condensation all the time. So that's something to think about too. All these activities that you do in the kitchen, moisture into the air. And that moisture's got to go somewhere. Yeah,
that's so true. And I guess it all contributes to the overall moisture in the house. And if you can't put in a new extractor fan or, replace certain things, are there options? I mean, what can we do?
Yeah, well, I always say to people, if you're renting or whatever, and you ask your landlord, and often they'll say no. And he would probably say no, or she would probably say no because you've already got one. In that case, get a dehumidifier.
And you just have that near the kitchen? Or?
Yes, when you're cooking, just put it on when you're cooking. It'll just help draw the moisture out of the air.
So we spend a lot of time setting up our little ones' rooms to make sure they're beautifully coordinated and that they're Instagram worthy. But I know for me, learning so much from yourself and our other experts, that the sleeping environment is extremely important. So they're going to be spending a lot of time here, hopefully sleeping as they get older, not so much in the early days. But they are obviously going to be exposed to different things. And for my little one, I was telling you previously, she had her tonsils out because she was having trouble sleeping, she was snoring, waking up tired. But you know, now that we've had that procedure done, she is still waking up complaining about her nose and her throat. So we are obviously living very close to the beach, so we get a lot of that sea breeze.
Yeah.
Is that generally a bit of a contributing factor?
Yes, anywhere where you're living in a coastal area, you're getting much more moisture coming in. So when I measure homes, I find that the moisture meter will pick up quite a bit of moisture content, particularly on the exterior walls.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rising damp too around here. And that can happen anywhere, but it's particularly in these kind of environments where you're close to the water. And also because we've got these doors here, and there's a draft coming in, so that's affecting the way that the house is heated. So obviously you're losing a lot more heat here when you heat the house. And when you get these temperature differences, that's when condensation.
It is the coldest,
and the windows are the coldest part of the building envelope. So that can be a potential source of getting condensation and then mould.
Is using a dehumidifier in this room, you know, going to be beneficial?
Yeah, definitely, to make sure that that humidity stays at around 50%. That's what you want. It's the most comfortable. If you go too low, that can also cause problems for some people.
Right.
But mould and dust mites and things like that love humidity above 60%. So keep it at around 50, and then it's going to be a better environment, definitely for sleeping, for kids.
I'd love for you to show me that gadget on the wall.
Okay, so this is just my moisture meter. Now to see what's going on here. If it's rising damp, it would be high down here. Oh, there we go.
Oh, wow.
So you can see that that's up at around 999. So that's saturated there. And then you'll see that it drops off a little bit as we move up. Still high there. Going down to around 500 there.
So that's likely rising damp, you're saying, rather than it actually coming from the outside?
Yeah, well, rising damp sort of from, well, it could be penetrating damp as well. Yeah, like if it's coming from the side or from up, but generally when you see it high at the bottom and then tapering off as you go up, that's rising damp. Yeah, and look, it's common, but again, it's something that we like to control.
Yeah, well, I think especially with the little one sleeping, the thing that you said about the dust mites, loving the humid environment. So what type of things do we usually see?
So mould and dust mite have similar symptoms, but the dust mites tend to be more about the itchy eyes, upper respiratory problems, you know, sinus, allergic rhinitis, that type of thing. So, and a big sign of dust mite allergy is if a child goes to bed at night, they've been fine, but then when they pop into bed at night, they start sneezing.
Yes.
And so if they're sneezing and they immediately get blocked up, think dust mites.
Yes.
Now, if you've got carpet, that's where dust mites going to live. Cushions, all your fabrics, curtains, drapes, they live everywhere.
Okay. So the key is to just keep that humidity out of the air. Find that nice microclimate, I guess you were saying about keeping rooms evenly heated, which I found interesting because I think some people do tend to shut the doors and they heat the lounge room where we're all spending time
That's right.
But, you know, shut the door because we're not at the front of the house. So.
Yeah, and they think that, you know, don't want to waste energy and it costs more obviously to heat the whole house, but it is better to heat the whole house evenly, the upstairs and the downstairs especially.
So this is obviously our second kids' room. So the baby sleeps in here with her brother. And I know you mentioned previously the more kids, the more moisture they produce. But something I have noticed with the baby is that she's actually waking up sometimes with red under her eyes, which looks like an allergy or an irritation.
Yes.
And that for me, not knowing anything about what you do, goes, oh, are there dust mites or something I should be aware of?
Yeah, definitely. Like it could be mould, it could be dust mites, it could be something else. But this is a very nice clean room and there's not too many stuffed toys. But you do have carpet, and carpet is just, you know, that's just what dust mites love. And bedding, you've got a few cushions here.
Yes.
You know, so dust mites would thrive in that kind of environment. And it's not actually the dust mite that it causes the allergy, it's a dust mite feces.
Oh, yeah.
I know, it's really gross.
Horrible thought.
But, you know, vacuuming properly with a HEPA filter, HEPA filter, is really important.
Okay.
Because that will take out all the tiny, small particulate matter that most regular vacuum cleaners won't take out. Okay. So that'll get sucked up and then a lot of it will just go back out into the air and linger in the air, sometimes for up to a week.
Oh, wow.
So that can really contribute to people with allergies or asthma and, you know, eczema and that type of thing. So when you're in this room, you would vacuum really thoroughly with a HEPA vacuum.
And I have heard you say before that you're better off vacuuming something very thoroughly than quickly doing the whole house.
Yes.
So really focusing.
Don't do 20 minutes and go through the whole house. You're better off just doing one room
and doing it properly
once and spending 20 minutes in this room and doing it really thoroughly. And then the next time you vacuum, do the next room.
Perfect.
Yeah, because it really, what's in dust is just, it's disgusting really. You're dragging everything in from outside, particularly if you're wearing shoes inside.
Yes.
It's coming in on your feet, it's coming in on your clothes, it's coming in through the windows. So, you know, there's all the diesel fuels and the lead, heavy metals, biological matter, everything. It's just coming in and landing in your dust.
I hate to think about it.
And settling, you know, and then you've got kids on the floor and a lot of hand to mouth action, you know, and they're closer to the floor. So they're the ones who suffer the most.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot you can do. We've talked about...
So soft toys, I do keep these in a little bit of a tub, but I know that a lot of people like to keep them in the beds or things shoved under the beds, which I'm a bit...
Yes, you don't want stuff under the bed because any clutter is going to really contribute to a great environment for mould to grow. Stagnant air, it can get cooler under there, you know, and then you're going to get moisture eventually settling on all the dust and what have you, and that's going to contribute and give you mould. With the dust mites, you can actually buy sheets that cover the entire mattress, the pillows, and they're really worthwhile if you've got a child with a dust mite allergy, for sure.
What does that look like? Is it rashes, itchy nose? What are the signs?
Yeah, so often a child will complain of feeling itchy at the top of their throat, rubbing their eyes a lot, red eyes, really badly rubbing their eyes, lots of sneezing when they go to bed, particularly, or if they're down on the floor, if somebody throws a pillow across the room, you know. Yeah. So those kind of symptoms, which can be mould as well. So it's very similar. But again, it's the keep the humidity at 50% and then you can really help control these.
So when we were chatting in the other room, you were talking to me about ventilation and the things that come out of there or potentially live in there. And I know for me, having the bed underneath the vent in our room has always been a bit of a concern. And I know you've got a fancy little gadget, so what are we going to do?
I have. This is actually just a camera, but it's fantastic because I can stick it into hard to get to places and then see if there's sort of mould, excessive dust, any moisture, rust, that type of thing. That's quite dusty there.
Oh yeah.
And that could potentially be mould.
Oh wow. Now, this room is quite connected to the shower and also our walk-in wardrobe. But what I notice is when my husband has very nice long hot showers, this room does fill up with steam. So obviously having big glass windows and the curtains shut during that time, I'm always seeing a lot of moisture and dampness after he's been in the shower. And I think I've actually got some mould I've grown, especially for you.
Oh yeah, I can see it already here. That's really common. And you'll notice that often, well, it's not here now, but when we were here earlier, just after someone had showered, there was lots of moisture still on here down the bottom. So yeah, that's just mould there. We can take a swab of that.
Excellent.
And send that off to a lab and just find out exactly what that is. Put that in there.
Oh.
Send that off to the lab.
Let's see what they have to say.
See what it is. And look, often the swabs come back with a high count, and what you find on the surface isn't necessarily what you're breathing in the air, but it does give you a good indication because kids come along and you know, touch it, get it on them, and put it in their mouth.
So I know that you were keen to have a look at the extractor fan in the bathroom, and I know you're going to tell me it's too small.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And it's obviously building up with dust quite quickly. So is this something that you would normally see where it's not taking enough of that steam when someone is having a hot shower and it's going to the other areas of the house?
Yes, absolutely. So that's, I mean, we'll turn it on, but that is clearly looks inadequate for this shower. And you can see all that dust, and so that you've got all that dust and then moisture's going to go up in there. So again, it's just perfect breeding ground for mould. Yeah, that's not going to be sufficient. If you're having a long hot shower or, you know, and obviously look at these windows. I would say open windows, but that doesn't look
We're on the second floor, no, I don't want children jumping out.
That's not great there.
And something that I did keep for you, because I've been very good at growing mould for you, is to show these things. Now, this wasn't bought all that long ago, but it very, very quickly got all of this mould underneath.
I mean, that's inevitable. You've got wood, and it's on a wet, constantly wet environment. It's going to be damp for 24, 48 hours. So of course it's going to get mould on it. Yeah, avoid that sort of thing. And I know people have rugs, mats, and things in there. You've just really got to stay on top of washing them in hot water really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Regularly. Yeah, it happens very quickly. And the last thing that I've noticed in here, I've noticed with the shelf, it's expanding there as well. So I do worry about having all of my products in here, obviously. So I don't know how I'm going to get my husband to stop having such long hot showers. Do you have any tips for that?
No, you're not going to. I've tried for years. So you'll have no luck with that. Sometimes that can just be the mirror deteriorating, and so that's not necessarily always mould. But this here, that's a good sign of dampness. And once dampness gets into that MDF, that's not great. It's a small shelf, it's not a huge problem. When I see these vanities and underneath, and it's all that MDF and then it's saturated and the wood's all separating and that can be that's a health hazard.
Breeding ground. So again, with a situation like this, if we're unable to change that fan, obviously regular cleaning, and getting that sort of working efficiently. So again, is this where you would be having that, dehumidifier running to kind of try and take some of that? Because I know that we had a look at that mould on the window, and that's a bit of a concern for me now. Yeah,
absolutely. So if you cannot get a better extractor fan in here or open some windows, then you do need something to dehumidifier. That's going to help all your other rooms and potentially your clothing as well. I mean, you've got all that moisture travelling around the house.
So Jo, this I think is a bit of a hot spot because I can smell the mould when I'm in here. And I have had to replace my rubbers a few times. So I'm a little bit embarrassed to show you this.
This is so common.
It just gets so bad so quickly.
And that smell is so strong.
Very strong.
I really think we need to take an air sample in here. Now the thing about this is very common with front load washers. A lot of people that have CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, they have to get top loading machines.
Right.
To avoid this because, it can get into your clothes and then they're wearing it. They're so sensitive to the mould that they would not be able to deal with this.
Yeah.
All you can really do is change that regularly. Leave these doors open all the time.
Yes, I do that. But I notice there's so much water that just stays in there. So really soaking that up after each wash.
Yes, it's a real hot spot. I mean, I'm going to check around here to make sure that the mould is not, it's not an underlying moisture issue. And a little bit wet here, but it's not, as I said before, tiles are normally quite, they're a bit higher. What I'm looking for is to see if it's fairly even all the way.
Okay.
So this is good. There's no anomalies here. And how's the extractor fan here?
It's the same as the bathroom, quite small. I do leave it running quite often.
Yes.
But again, I mean, I don't use the dryer.
Do you open the door when you do the...
No, but I need to get into the habit again because I've got little ones. They love the stones.
I
never like them getting out there and playing with the rocks because they end up everywhere. But interesting you say that about this because a lot of the time I do hang my washing inside. I'm a bit funny about fading, so all of the washing usually is indoor. Clothesline.
And that's not great. I mean, and some people have to do that. If you live in an apartment with no backyard or something like that, there is no option. They have to dry their clothes inside. A dehumidifier is really all you can do in that situation.
So this is actually a recent area that's been causing a bit of trouble. So I have been watching TV with the kids, getting very itchy eyes, and in fact I've noticed that the kids are getting a little bit allergic every time we're sitting here.
Right.
So what I did is I pulled the couch out away from the wall, and what do you know? I found mould.
Mould.
So it is behind the couch. I've kept the couch out for a reason. I've noticed it on the back of the lamp. But it's also on the lower part of the wall down here.
Right.
The only thing I thought of is that I do hang my washing along the back window there.
Yeah, right. So just here, normally you'll have the washing. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that can obviously contribute to the moisture here. It's near the kitchen, as we spoke about before. That could be influencing it, but it could be a rising damp issue. Which means I'll just check it with the moisture meter and just see if there is moisture coming up, because often when we find mould along, as you can see, it's along the skirting there and a little bit higher up. So if this shows me that the moisture is high down here, then it could be a rising damp, but it's not so far.
So that means it's something that I'm doing inside's contributing to the...
Yeah, that's
wow.
more to do with condensation, trapped air, cold corner of the house. So again,
Right.
really important to make sure that, you know, the house is heated evenly.
Even the mold is in my room. It's everywhere. It's like there's some things in your house and they make you sick. I don't want to get sick.
Thank you so much, Jo, for all of your wonderful tips. I know there's a lot of families out there that would benefit from this information. And thank you to our friends at DeLonghi for partnering with us so that we can share this very helpful and important information.